Today on Sports Card Investor University, we're teaching you everything you need to know about how to find great deals on sports cards. Hello, sports card investors, and welcome to another episode of Sports Card Investor University, where we aim to bring you knowledge so that you can grow to become the best sports card investor and collector possible. And today, we are talking about finding great deals on sports cards. And this is really important because if you're going to invest in sports cards and you're going to hope to return a profit on those sports cards at some point in time in the future, then you want to get those cards for a good deal when you buy them to begin with. Because if you can get cards at a good deal, then it means there's much more of a chance that you'll make enough profit to actually make a good return on those cards in the future. So we're going to tackle that topic today. And this episode of Sports Card Investor is brought to you by eBay. eBay is here for the card collectors with the trick for every trade, like advanced tools for price checking with the Price Guide Beta within the eBay app, and up to 50% faster listing with Image Scan. Learn how collecting just got smarter at ebay.com/trading hub. So the first thing you need to do to find great deals on sports cards is to start with a plan. Whenever you're making any type of investment or business decision, you always want to have a plan. People who plan out their investments are going to do better than people who just pick investments willy-nilly. And the same goes with sports cards. You've got to go in with a plan if you're going to find great deals. So one of the first things I recommend doing is creating a target list of the cards you want to go after from an investment standpoint. And there are millions of cards out there. It's easy to get lost, especially if you are a first-time collector or investor. Now, sometimes it's okay if you're simply going into this from a collecting standpoint to get lost. Sometimes I'll go to a card show and I'll just walk around and take in the incredible many types of cards, the amazing variety of cards that are there, and I'll end up picking up some things that I was never thinking about walking into the show floor simply because I like them. That works great for collecting. But if you're trying to invest, if you're trying to make a profit on your sports cards, that's a really bad idea. You need to go in with a plan just like you would for any other type of investment. Now, a plan can begin with the type of target players that you want to go after. And when you're figuring out that list of players, you need to take into account risk tolerance. There's a big difference between investing for the short term and trying to flip, trying to make some dollars at the end of the season or the end of the year on cards that you're buying today, versus investing for the long term and buying cards that you may want to hold for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years or 50 years into the future. For example, all-time great players, your Michael Jordans or your Kobe Bryants or your Mickey Mantles or your Hank Aaron's, those types of players are typically great for long-term investment. Typically, those types of players have a slow but steady increase in value over the course of many years. Now, the last couple of years have not been typical. With the number of people that have come into sports cards, we have seen prices of those players spike and come back down. But if you zoom out and look over the long term, typically your all-time great players will go slow but steady upwards over the course of many years. So they can make good long-term investments. But often, they're not going to provide spectacular returns for you in the short term. If you're more of a risk taker, if you're more of a gambler, if you like to go for buying the hot young rookie or the new player who you think is going to have a great season, or the undervalued player, the underappreciated player who you think is going to break out this year, that is another form of investing, but it's a riskier form of investing. Investing in the younger players, the rookies, the less proven players, the undervalued players, and thinking that their cards could go up over the course of the season or over the course of the year is a popular strategy, but it is one that is filled with a lot of risk. So you got to balance the two. What type of risk profile do you want? Are you in it for the long term, or are you in it for the short term? Are you willing to take a lot of risk, or would you rather play it safe? That's going to dictate what type of cards you buy. And of course, there are levels in between. You can buy players who have already won a championship and have established themselves, which reduces their downside risk. Yet they still have the upside if they go on and do more. This might be in basketball, someone like an Anthony Davis, for example, or a Kawhi Leonard. They've proven it on the court, but there's still more opportunity for them to prove more. If they don't prove it anymore, it's possible they could go down a little bit, but they have already at least won a ring and cemented themselves as a special player, and that should always hold some value for the long term. That's kind of your middle ground between the two. Another strategy that people will sometimes do is they'll invest in players before big events. Now, this used to work better in the hobby, but many people have become much more savvy over the last couple of years. It was easy a couple of years ago to buy the cards of players before their Hall of Fame announcement, for example. Before Derek Jeter would have been announced in the Hall of Fame, you could have perhaps bought his cards and watched them go up on the news of him getting into the Hall of Fame. But that is not so easy anymore. That used to work in prior years. That doesn't work as much anymore. Now, a lot of people anticipate the news, and they anticipate what big documentary might be coming out soon. And so they're getting ahead of buying those cards well before that starts to happen. So those opportunities to make a few bucks on news that could occur don't exist today as much as they used to in the past. Now, another option is not to buy the cards of individual players at all, but rather to buy the boxes that those cards come out of. And this is actually my favorite investing strategy, buying sealed wax. Instead of trying to figure out which of the 2018 rookie quarterbacks in football is going to go on and have the best career between Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, instead of trying to make that decision, maybe you just buy boxes of 2018 football products and keep those boxes sealed. Because if any of those players goes and has a Hall of Fame type career, chances are those boxes will continue to go up and up and ride the momentum of that player's card prices. I love investing in sealed wax. I think it's the best investment you can make. Now, of course, you have to keep it sealed. You buy these boxes sealed, you keep them sealed, and you resell them down the road sealed as well. I personally like this strategy a lot because sealed wax gets more and more rare over time as cards become more and more common. You see, people open boxes of sealed wax and they pull all of the cards out, and that makes the cards more common, but that makes the boxes more rare. And of course, supply and demand will tell you that as boxes become more rare, the price of those boxes will go up as long as demand remains constant. Now, to find out what type of sets you might want to invest in, watch our last Sports Card Investor University video on this channel called Sports Card Investing 101. Now, some people will look for opportunities for undervalued types of cards or undervalued sets and believe that a type of card or a type of set will go up in value. For example, a couple of years ago, there was a real opportunity with Select to buy field level cards or courtside cards because they were extremely short printed, extremely rare, but a lot of people didn't recognize that fact at the time. People who invested heavily in those cards a couple of years ago saw returns that were oversized compared to the rest of the sports card hobby. Recently, we've seen the same thing with special insert sets like Kaboom and Color Blast that have been very, very short printed, meaning there's not many of them out there. They're rare cards, yet they become very popular in the sports card hobby, and demand has far outweighed supply and prices have gone up. One final note about having a plan, I always recommend buying graded cards whenever possible. In my opinion, that gives you the safety and security of knowing the condition of the card before you buy it. Now, there are people who make money by buying raw cards and getting them graded, but I always like the strategy of buying graded cards when possible because it gives you the security of knowing the value of that card going into the negotiation. So that's the plan. Have that plan, But once you've got your plan in place, it's critical that you know the price history of cards you're going to go after. So now you have a plan, but in order to find great deals on those cards or that sealed wax, you have to know the price history. Understanding the price history of a card or sealed wax is understanding what it has sold for recently, understanding the market value based upon recent sales. It's very important that you have that information, because how are you going to negotiate for a good deal if you don't even really know what a card is worth when you're going in to buy that card to begin with? Now, here at Sports Card Investor, we put together some great tools to make this process as easy for you as possible. First of all, our Sports Card Investor app is a free price guide. You can download the Sports Card Investor app on your smartphone, and it features hundreds of thousands of cards that you can look up within the app and see the recent sales history of any of those cards. If you're getting more in depth into sports card investing, then you're going to want to check out Market Movers. Market Movers is another app and also a website. It has very advanced charts. It has a lot more price history, a lot more in-depth analytics. It gives you a real true sense of the sports card market. And then there's other tools as well. Right within the eBay app or on ebay.com, you can look at sold items, or you can use their price guide beta feature, which shows you the sales history on eBay of particular cards. Now, it's not going to do the in-depth charting and all of the analytics that our tools will do, but it's a great way to look up any card that has ever sold on eBay and get a sense for the price history of that card. Now, whenever you're looking at recent comps, though, which means recent sales, it's important that you take the next step to make sure that those sales were legitimate. Within the Sports Card Investor app and within the Market Movers app, we do screening to ensure that as many of those sales as possible were legitimate, but our technology is not perfect. And sometimes there are sales that get into the data that isn't perfect, that isn't legit, and that's why you have to do a little bit of research. It's always a good idea to go back and look at the recent sales, look at the buyer feedback rating, make sure it was from a legitimate buyer, make sure the card wasn't relisted later. If you click on that item and look at that item on eBay's website, it will tell you if it was later relisted, which is an indicator that it wasn't paid for, which means that it was never a legitimate sale to begin with. It's also really good to look for a pattern of sales. I always recommend not just going off of the very last sale, the very last comp, in case that sale was freakishly high or in case it wasn't legitimate. Instead, look for a pattern. Look for the past several sales of that card. Now, that can be hard to do if it's a rare card, but even for rare cards, you can look at other grades of that card. You can look at that card in raw condition, or either other similar cards from that same player to see what they have done recently in the marketplace. And when it comes to sealed wax, we've got your back there too, because Market Movers tracks the sales of hundreds of boxes of sealed wax, just like it tracks the sales of hundreds of thousands of sports cards. So now that you know your price history, now you got to figure out where you're going to buy these cards. It's time to choose your marketplace. There are many great choices of places you can shop for cards online. eBay is the biggest. eBay is the site that typically is going to have the most inventory of whatever cards you're looking for. But there's a lot of other great sites too. Sites like ComC, StarStock, StockX, MySlab, PWCC, and auction houses like Golden Auctions and others, as well as big resellers like Blowout Cards and Dave & Adam's Card World. The best way to find good deals is to compare across all of these sites. In fact, some of the very best deals I found this year, I found by really comparing across many different websites. In fact, this year alone, I've made tens of thousands of dollars by finding undervalued cards at auction houses on their websites that were going for far less than I could resell those same cards for on eBay, or the value I could trade them for at a card show. This year, I've also found several lots of cards or collections of cards that I was able to break down into individual parts and sell the individual cards for more than the lot or the collection itself. So those are some tactics that you can often find if you spend enough time looking at what's for sale across all of these sites. And then of course there's card shows, the old-fashioned way to buy and sell sports cards, as well as your local card shop. And we're going to talk about card shows in a little bit because it can also be a great way to find good deals. But I want to take a little bit of time now to talk about eBay because eBay does have the largest inventory. So oftentimes that's where you're going to find yourself shopping for cards. Chances are, if there's a particular card you're chasing, eBay's likely going to be the one that has it out of all of these choices. Not always true with certain types of really high-end rare cards, but for everyday cards, eBay is oftentimes your best bet. They just simply have the largest number of sellers currently on their platform and the largest transaction volume. Now, eBay also offers several different ways to bid on or buy cards. They offer auctions, live auctions that end at a certain time. They have listings that are buy it now listings, meaning that cards are sold for sale at a fixed price. And then a lot of those buy it now listings accept best offers, allowing you to make an offer to negotiate on a particular card with the seller through eBay. So all of these different methods allow you different opportunities to find good deals. So let's talk about how to use eBay most effectively to find those deals. When looking for deals on eBay, it all starts with the search. eBay is all oriented around searching. So you've got to search for the cards you want. And in order to search well on eBay and to get a clean set of search results, you really want to utilize the power of that search box. One tip is to put a minus sign in front of words that you don't want to show up in your results to get cleaner results. So let's say you were looking for a Topps rookie card of a particular baseball player, but you didn't want to see Topps Chrome results because you're only looking for regular Topps, not Topps Chrome. What you could do is you could put a minus symbol in front of the word Chrome in that search box, and eBay will exclude anything with the word Chrome in it from the results. This can obviously be helpful if you don't want to see results from a particular grading company. If you're only looking for PSA cards and you don't want to see BGS results, you can use that same tactic. Now, if you only want to see graded cards and you don't want to see raw cards, a little trick to doing that is to put multiple grading companies in parentheses with a comma in between. So for example, in the search box, if you put parentheses PSA, comma, BGS, and then close the parentheses, you're going to see search results on eBay that contain the word PSA or BGS, but they must contain one of the two. So what that's going to do is exclude raw cards from the results that come up. Another tactic when you're scanning eBay is to look for cards with a high number of watchers. Cards that are of interest to people and sometimes cards that are priced well will have a lot of people that click the button to watch that card. So cards with high number of watchers can be interesting to look at. Now, as you're building out search queries on eBay to find the cards that you want, save those search queries. eBay allows you to save your searches, and you can even build alerts off of saved searches so that anytime a new card comes onto eBay that matches your search query that you've saved, you get a notification either by email or to your phone. This is a critical feature to be able to utilize to ensure that you are finding cards that you want and that you're the first to know when those cards hit eBay. Because sometimes they'll hit eBay and they'll be perhaps a bit underpriced, or it gives you an opportunity to get in and start negotiating on a card before anybody else has seen that that card has landed on eBay. eBay also offers an advanced search. You can use the advanced search to specify things like cards that are above a certain dollar amount with an auction ending within a certain period of time. Sometimes that combination of things allows you to find a card that is about to sell at auction soon within a certain value range, and sometimes you can find a good deal if that card hasn't gotten enough attention from a bidding standpoint. Also, look for auctions that end at odd times. Sometimes you can find deals simply because an auction is not ending during prime time hours. Most of the time, people are searching on eBay in the evenings. So an auction that ends in the middle of the day or in the morning sometimes can get you a little bit of a better price. You can also search eBay using terms like lots or investor lots to find people that are selling groups of cards together. And sometimes you'll get a better deal that way. Sometimes you'll be able to find a whole lot of cards that is priced less expensively than each individual card in that lot is when you add the value of all of them together. Those are just some of the ways that you can search eBay and look for value. There's another tip as well, and that is that our Sports Card Investor app can actually help you find some of the best deals on eBay for free. The Sports Card Investor app is a free app that has a really cool feature, and that it is constantly bringing in new listings from eBay of cards, and it is comparing what those listing prices are on eBay to recent sales history of those cards. And it's actually giving you a thumbs up symbol if it thinks that it's a good deal. Now, the app is not perfect. You always want to check recent sales history, and you also always want to check to make sure the for sale listing is the actual card that you're going after and not somebody who got creative or frankly misleading with their listing title to make you think you're buying one thing when in reality you're buying something different. So click into it, do your homework. But oftentimes the Sports Card Investor app will highlight cards that are going for at or below eBay comps. So it's a great thing to check. And the app allows you to mark your favorite players so that you can come back and quickly target specific cards that you're going for. You can mark favorite players as well as favorite individual cards. Our other product, Market Movers, also has a couple of really great features to help you find good sports card deals. One is called the eBay Deal Search feature. And what this does is this looks at all of the active listings on eBay, and it compares them to all of the cards in our Market Movers database and highlights cards across eBay that are currently listed at or below market value. Now, once again, you have to do your research to make sure that the listings are legitimate and recent sales are legitimate, but oftentimes this eBay Deal Search tool in Market Movers has found people cards that are selling for significantly below what recent comps of those cards have sold for. And sometimes people who list cards, they either simply make a mistake and they put them at the wrong value, or somebody will list a card for sale and not know that the market of that card has changed or is in the process of changing. And so whatever price they listed at may be below market value a week or two later. And that's where the Market Movers eBay Deal Search feature comes in really helpful. Another really cool feature in Market Movers is price alerts. Market Movers can actually alert you when a card you are targeting falls below a certain price point or rises above a certain price point, which can be a really helpful feature for you to know when to buy or sell. Now, we've talked a lot about how to locate potential deals. Now let's talk about how to negotiate for them so that you can get the best price. Negotiation is a big part of the sports card hobby. And if you're going to be buying cards, then you need to be ready and willing to negotiate. But it doesn't have to be scary. If you know the past price history of a card, it makes it a lot easier for you to be able to make a fair offer and be able to stand firm on an offer so that you can make yourself a good deal. Now on eBay, many of the listings that are buy it now listings, they give you the ability to make an offer. Whenever you see this feature, I always recommend you use it. Making an offer is the way to virtually negotiate through eBay. So most of the time, you want to use this feature. You want to click that button. Now, the only time you wouldn't is if a card is listed at a buy it now for a particularly good price, for a price that is at or below market value, and you want to scoop it up right away instead of taking a chance of making an offer, waiting for the seller to respond, and then having someone else come in and buy it at full asking price during that time period. But again, most of the time you're going to want to make an offer. And the reason why is a lot of times sellers will list their cards for a fair amount above market value. In fact, I've often found that you can normally get a card for 15 to 20% below the asking price by using the make an offer button. I have gotten cards sometimes for as much as 50 or 60% below their buy it now price by using that make an offer button and put in an offer. But once again, it's always good to know your price history. You're gonna have a much better chance of having your offer accepted if you come in with something reasonable. If you come in with something ridiculous, that's like half of what that card has recently sold for, that's almost never going to get accepted. If you come in with something reasonable that is around or maybe slightly below what it recently sold for, there's a lot better chance that the seller is going to take you seriously and either sell you that card at that price or at least make a counter offer. And it's also important that you make reasonable offers because eBay only gives you a few attempts at making an offer and going back and forth with the seller before you can no longer make an offer on that card. So use those attempts wisely by making a reasonable offer using the make an offer feature. Now that's how to negotiate on eBay, but there's a whole nother world of card shows where you can sometimes find an even better deal if you negotiate properly. Now, when you walk into a card show, it's vitally important that you have a plan and that you know your price history, just like what we talked about earlier in this video. It's especially important at card shows because there's so much to see and you're gonna be walking around captivated by the many, many cards that are out there. But if you're really coming in looking for investment opportunities, then it's really important to have that plan and know your price history. And then when you find a card you're after, negotiate. Negotiation is expected and customary at card shows. I know it can be a little bit intimidating at times to have to make an offer that is below the asking price for something, but it is a must do if you're going to try to get cards at a better price for an investment standpoint. And the dealers are expecting it. People come into card shows and negotiate all the time. It's just an expected part of the culture at a card show. The key is, if you have the plan and you know the price history, you're not going to insult anybody. It's only insulting if you come in with some ridiculous offer because you're pricing it way, way below market value and you haven't done your research. As long as you come in with a reasonable offer that's a little bit below market value, chances are that dealer is going to take you seriously and you're going to have a good conversation back and forth. And oftentimes you can come in below market value with your offers at card shows because you have to consider that if that dealer were to sell the card online on a site like eBay, they're going to pay a fee. They're going to pay a fee that can be 10%, 15%, even 20% potentially if they're selling through a big auction house. So if you're willing to buy that card at the card show, and if you're willing to pay cash, because cash is king at card shows and cash will find you better deals, then often you can get the card for 15 to 20% less than what the most recent sales of that card online were. So you can go in and make a reasonable offer in that ballpark, and oftentimes you'll get the card at a great price point. Now, don't be afraid to walk away. If you make an offer on a card and the dealer says no and you're not able to reach a deal, walk away. Stick to your guns. Stick to the price you're willing to pay for a card. You can always come back to the table later. And sometimes you'll surprise yourself. You'll come back to that table later and that dealer will see you and he's going to be a little more willing to negotiate if he hasn't sold that card yet. And it's getting later in the card show. Speaking of that, at card shows, you can often find your best deals either at the very beginning of the show or especially at the very end of the show. Sometimes you'll find the best deals at the very beginning because you'll walk in and the show is normally not crowded at the start. And if you're coming in with cash right away, some of the dealers will just be happy to get their first deal done and get some of their cards off the table and get some cash back in return. At the end of the card show, dealers are also oftentimes willing to cut a bit of a better deal because they don't want to pack that inventory and take it home with them. They'd rather move some of it at the show and take cash home in their pocket instead of those cards that they came with home with them at the end of the show unsold. So you can often find your best deals on either ends of the show. When you're least likely to find a good deal, in my opinion, is right in the middle of the show when it's the busiest. Typically, Saturdays are the busiest days for card shows, and Saturdays can often be the days when it's tougher to get a good deal because there's a lot of customers there looking at the cards, so the dealers are less willing to work on the price if they see a bunch of customers with money in their wallets who they think might buy that card at full price later on. Now, sometimes at card shows, you can find a good deal if you're willing to buy in bulk. I will often negotiate a price with a dealer, get it to close to where I want it to be, and then say, what about this card over here? Negotiate that card, and then say, how about if I buy both of these cards together? You'll give me an even lower price on the two. That tactic will often work. It works even more if you're willing to buy a whole lot of cards from a particular dealer. I've even seen people come in and negotiate with a dealer to buy their entire display case. How much for the whole display case? The dealer is often willing to negotiate a lot more in those situations because they're able to move a lot of inventory at one time with you instead of just selling one card at a time. So those are some great ways to find deals at card shows, but I got a few more tips for you on finding great sports card deals. Now, these tips will take a little bit of work, but if you're willing to put the work in, they can often yield you a great result. One is to buy entire collections and then break those collections down and sell the cards individually. You can find collections, sometimes on eBay, sometimes at card shows, but really the best way to find collections and to get a good deal is to look in your local area. Tools like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist will oftentimes show you people who are just trying to sell an entire collection of sports cards, or maybe even an estate sale or something similar where there were sports cards as part of that estate that are now all being sold. Now be careful, because a lot of people who are selling these collections are selling collections of cards from the junk wax era. If you see a collection that's full of cards from the late 1980s and early 1990s, stay away. And that's what many of these collections are going to be. Cards from those eras typically don't have much value. But sometimes you'll find collections from other decades, and especially if you can find collections from older decades, from the 60s, from the 70s, or even all the way back to the 50s or before, you can sometimes find some real gems. If you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to go and evaluate these collections and then look up the prices of the cards individually, you can sometimes find some really good deals that way. Another thing you can do, kind of like buying a collection, but on a little bit of a smaller scale, is buying a lot of cards. Now, what a lot is when a collector says, I've got 50 LeBron James cards, or I've got 300 Michael Jordan cards, or I've got 1,000 Kobe Bryant cards, and I'm going to sell them all together as a lot of cards. So you're buying that entire collection of that one particular player. Oftentimes, this is opportunity to find a better deal. Sometimes you'll be able to find these lots and negotiate the price down and get the lot to a price point where the individual cards are worth significantly more than what you're going to pay the person for the entire lot. The reason for this is oftentimes when someone is selling a lot of cards, they just want to get rid of them. There may be something happening in their life financially that's causing them to need the money, so they're looking to move all of their cards at one time in a simple transaction. Or maybe they're simply moving and need to clear up space. Whatever it may be, there may be a reason why they're getting rid of that lot, and they just want to get some cash and get a deal done. For you, that can be a real opportunity if you're willing to price those cards out and sell them individually. You can also sometimes do the same thing by buying complete sets. There's sometimes opportunity to buy a complete set of a product, buy every single card of a particular product, a particular set from a particular year, and sometimes find that some of the individual cards in that set are worth more if you pull them out and sell them individually than the set is itself. And so what that allows you to do is if you can pay for the price of the set by selling a few individual cards out of it, then the rest of the cards in that set are now free to you. That's your profit. That's your free money. Those are the cards that you can then move and make your profit on the set. Now, do be careful, because a lot of people fall into the trap assuming that if they buy an unopened complete set of cards, that all of the cards in there are in perfect gem mint condition. And people will often assume, oh, I can buy this complete set and send some of these cards off for grading and get back all of these PSA 10s or perfect scores from other grading companies. That is often not the case. Oftentimes, even though it's a sealed, complete set, the cards coming out of it are not going to be in perfect condition. So don't make the assumption that you can grade all of the cards and the cards will come out perfectly. But if you can find a set where you don't have to make that assumption and you know that you can sell some of the individual cards for more than the sum of the parts, then that can be a good investment opportunity. Guys, I hope you enjoyed all of these tips on how to find great deals on sports cards, and I would love to hear your own tips if you found some things that have worked well for you as well. So let me know in the comments below what your best tips are for finding great deals on sports cards. And please hit that subscribe button and please hit that bell icon so you can be informed when we come out with new Sports Card University content like this, as well as all of our other videos every single week. And go right now and download the Sports Card Investor app to your phone, as well as the Market Movers app. Download the Market Movers app as well. You're going to find both of them to be invaluable tools as you go hunting for great sports card deals. Until the next episode, thank you for joining. See you again soon.